So what is June 28th, 2012, and why is that date important? Why does it matter? What is June 28th, 2012? Now, I believe I first heard this, it was either from Bob Chapman and or I can't remember the other guy's name. I get his emails updates all the time. The guy who's got the gold mine thing started in South Africa. Jim Sinclair. And there's certain things that I come across, data, news, that I know I'm not going to remember that in the future. So thank God for technology, also known as Microsoft Outlook with its calendar. And in there, back when I first heard about this, I decided to put my reminder a few days in advance of the 28th. Well, that's today. It's several days in advance of the 28th. And then I was like, what does this pop up? I didn't even remember. What is this? What did I say to myself? What is it? NDAA, National Defense Act. What about the... This is very important. And it remains to be seen what happens exactly, or how soon after it happens. But what am I talking about? On the last day of 2011, President Obama, as you and I know, signed the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2012. And in that NDA were some interesting things, including the indefinite detention of Americans, which has now been struck down, thank God. But there was something else interesting in there as well. There was a section in there that attempts to reduce Iran's revenue from the sale of petroleum fuel by imposing sanctions on foreign financial institutions that are conducting transactions with Iran and their financial institutions in connection with those sales. This provision, which essentially cuts off sanctioned institutions from the U.S. financial system, essentially takes effect on June 28th, in a few days from now, 2012. So we're basically telling the countries that are dealing with Iran, that want Iran's oil, basically anything, forget just oil, but any kind of trade with Iran, basically, because we put economic sanctions on them. Remember, we kicked them out of the SWIFT system, so then we heard India and China, and, little noise over there saying, well, we'll just, we'll get it another way, and the other way basically is gold. So what this is doing, this goes into effect apparently on the 28th, June 28th. So if it goes into effect on June 28th, how many other financial institutions, not in Iran, but just other ones that in all kinds of different countries that deal with Iran through some system, whether it was a SWIFT system or whatever, our westernized world system, financial system, in order to buy and pay, buy, sell, make payments, etc. And now they, not Iran, but those people and their financial institutions are going to be cut out of the system in regards to Iran. So you are essentially forcing a bunch of other countries, and God knows how many other financial institutions within those countries, to find another way to get that same oil product from Iran. And if this recent history is my guide, seeing what Russia and China, or what India has done, and China as well, mainly India, in that we'll just sell you gold, or not necessarily sell it, but we will give you gold at today's market price for your oil. And Iran basically said, okay, sounds good. So now we're getting people out of our financial system, out of using our SWIFT and modernized financial system, and back to an older financial system in which gold and silver were used. So if countries realize we're tired of dealing with America and their sanctions, as soon as we put sanctions on some country, in this case Iran, and then it was Libya, right? And now even Syria's in the picture. So we just pick and choose these countries, not having a care in the world of how many other countries and people's livelihoods we just screwed up, because now they can't do transactions with those countries that we've put sanctions on. This law takes it a step further, basically, because it says not only are we dealing with Iran's sanctions, it's basically like we're sanctioning other countries that deal with Iran simply because they deal with Iran. And if you deal with Iran, you're getting sanctioned too. Before, it was just we're sanctioning Iran and we'll knock them out of the SWIFT system and that's it. Now we're taking that to the next level, you can't use a SWIFT system, can't deal with Iran, but all you other countries that would like to deal with Iran, you got to go through our system. And now we will put sanctions, or at least in this section, somewhat of some kind of sanctions on you. Not really in a bad way, we're just going to stop you from doing business. So could you imagine telling another country, you guys can't have oil anymore? What would happen to the country? At this day and age, when everything, including this camera that I'm looking at right now, including my car, everything you're looking at, buildings, nothing gets done without a drop of oil. There's a drop of oil in everything, period. Any kind of technology right now, it's in there. The process of making food even, it's there. Machinery, gotta keep the tractors running, right? Gotta keep the big companies and warehouses open. They gotta have oil, gotta have gas, gotta have electricity, etc. So could you imagine saying, well, so-and-so country, this isn't against you, it's against this guy over here, and I know you get oil from them, but we're sorry, because we've got a little fight going on with them. It's between us two, and we are automatically pulling you into it and making you suffer as part of this fight. Now naturally, that third party should look over here and say, hey, that's an act of war, you SOB, what the hell are you doing? But we're America, the imperialist Americans, or not Americans, I say Americans, but when I say that, I'm talking about you and me, the average people, not Americans. America, the country America, which has been taken over by the elite long ago. They have all their people in power, etc. You know the whole story. So our government, or maybe I should call it the shadow government, because that's really who's running things. So this shadow government is basically responsible. So these people over here who are pissed off and are telling us, you guys just declared an act of war on us, that's basically, they have every right to say that. Now you might argue and say, well, Iran can't say that because Iran's a terrorist nation. Damn terrorist. How are they a terrorist? I hear it everywhere. News says it, President says it, Congress, my favorite John McCain says it. They must be a terrorist. So good luck arguing with that person that there's no proof that Iran's a terrorist nation. But let's just say they are. Iran, you're a terrorist nation. How about the other dozen nations that deal with Iran economically, peacefully, on their own free will, are now being shut out because of the United States puts its foot down and says, you guys can't deal with Iran. You can't go and tell another country they can't deal with somebody else because you don't like them. That's like when you were a kid and you had a little best friend, right? There's a group of friends and we all like each other, and then all of a sudden there's a fight between the two, and you're that one, well, I'm still friends with them and I'm still friends with them, but they don't like each other anymore. God, I hate being in the middle, but it is, and I'm friends with them and I'm friends with them. And then all of a sudden this one over here tells you, I'm not going to be your friend anymore as long as you're friend with that guy. And that's when you tell them, well, then I guess our friendship doesn't mean anything, does it? If that's the way you feel, then we shouldn't have been friends in the beginning. Have a nice day, see you later. That's how that will end, and you would stand back and say, you know what? That just got handled flawlessly. That's exactly how that should have happened. You don't pull someone else in the middle that has nothing to do with it and tell them, make them an ultimatum for doing nothing, for being in the middle of something they're not even supposed to be in. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? That's America right now, starting on June 28th. Take it for what it is.